All right, everyone, welcome back to Anime Savants. This week I am Excalibur.
Oh shit! This week I am Himeno.
Oh, okay.
Chainsaw Man stuff. We can talk a little bit about that.
Oh boy,
a little bit.
I've seen. Bit. Yeah. Oh goodness, I don't even know. I'm behind, but when am I not behind? So
yeah.
Spy Family. Crazy Fiona, love him to death. Okay, girl. I was actually surprised because at one moment I was thinking, I was like, is Yor gonna have to get crazy and like show the assassin with this woman? But that didn't come. So like it was okay. It was fine. But of course Anya is the pivotal thing in it where she comes through and she's just like, this bitch is crazy. Like you cannot be my mom. Like absolutely fucking not. So I enjoyed that for what it was, and the Bond short at the end was so
very
cute.
It was so cute.
It was so cute. But I guess that was like a little bit more story.
It was more. I mean, Spy Family is in that place where because it's sort of a deliberately like an episodic slice of life manga.
Yeah.
So that the story progresses in little spurts where you'll get like a few episodes or a few chapters together that are telling kind of one canon storyline that's moving the ball forward a little bit, but also you kind of want it to stall a lot because once the mission's over, the story's done.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be some stuff to fill in like what family life is and the little problems that everybody has. So I don't expect it to be like this fast-moving show where, like, every season we're like, oh, man, like, you know, they're rushing towards an ending. Like, we know what the ending is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I like this week's episode because it did what the show does do well, which is give you funny moments. Sometimes things that are very unexpected. Like, I would say, like, Anya's... When that moment where she finally reads Fiona's mind and the entire vibe of everything flips on its head, where like first you just see her face and then like the camera pans up and you just see like the love balloons around her head. She had the Sue from Tsuki in her eyes, like love, you know, like she was just fucking done. She's having all of her delusions, all of her like fantasies about what life with Lloyd is gonna be like that segment is the kind of thing that I love about the show. It's not so much like, you know, are they gonna succeed in getting Anya another star? It's like, it's fine, whatever. But yeah,
that's about all I had for that one.
That's fine. Yeah, I think the Bond one was good as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Bond one. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is there? Blue Lock.
Blue Lock crazy, man. Blue Lock crazy.
First of all, I'm surprised they ended the previous episode as though they were in the Tokyo Revengers, like where they like rolled up on them niggas in the cafeteria.
That's right.
I thought we were gonna start from there, but we didn't. They were just like back in the room, and Kuon was just at peace. And I'm like, wait,
this motherfucker.
How are you niggas are putting up with this? He's
this
like,
motherfucker.
I won't participate anyways. And then for Ego to literally be like, I hate you. You're a piece of shit. Like, you are not a striker. Like, fuck you. I was like, okay, well, good. At least it's being known, or he's being, like, informed that, nigga, we don't fuck with you. Like, nobody fucks with you. That, and then I actually really liked the little backstory that they gave for, like, the main two people from the other team. A trust fund baby and someone who's just naturally fucking talented, and them basically latching on to the talented person and the one thing that they actually need other people's help with. It's like, okay, like that's a little interesting premise. The other guy is just a gimmick. Like actually no, let me not say that because he might
not totally
show up. Yeah, he might show up next episode and do some crazy shit. But I really enjoyed. Because I felt like this, like, I mean, the show runs off of hype, but they kept building it up to be like, oh, these niggas are ever dominating, and like, you can't beat them, blah, 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 blah. And it's actually just really fucking simple. Them niggas are just really fucking good. Like, they copied your move flawlessly and did it. And then homeboy turned around and was like, why couldn't you do that? Like, that shit, I was like, oh my God. Like, he's that kind of character that has the the social like modicums like disconnect. He's just
right.
Like, what do you? Why? Okay, all right. So you're stupid. Okay, got it. So I have
we kind of knew that was like the direction they were going from like the last.
Oh no, I loved
that,
his life philosophy. He's just like, nigga, I just want to chill. Like, I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything.
What do I have to look like in order to not have to work? Whatever that is. That's me. I'm sorry. That's all I want.
Exactly. So overall, man, I love it. I'm definitely looking forward to we're almost. How many more episodes does it have? 4?
3?
3?
4? Is it 8 or is this episode 8?
I think that was 8. Yeah.
So we got 4 episodes, which is enough for quite a bit to
they
do
can wrap
something.
This up and then do like one more, and then they'll probably end on a cliffhanger.
So how many characters, if we exclude Kuon, how many characters after this episode on the main team have like become part of the team, right? Because it's Chigiri, Isagi, Muscle Dude, Bachira. And now this episode was the spiky haired dude is like, like it's clearly this is going to be about him and integrating him.
Yeah.
So who do we got left? We have like the monk,
Gama Agora.
Yeah, the dude who's like the goalkeeper.
Raichi. Raichi was like, "I'll kill your ass, nigga, if you do anything." I was
That's true.
Oh, okay. I want to see. I want to see something about that.
I feel like there's like with like Chigiri, even from a design point of view, is sort of a very good bait character. He's not like a mascot character, but he's good because he's a pretty boy. And if you look at, again, remember I said a couple weeks ago, like I pay attention to who's in the opening, who's like focused on, and then who's focused on the ending. And it's like, it's Chigiri, obviously Isagi because he's the main character.
Bakida.
And so like it's the blonde guy. So it's like, that's the core. We have 4 episodes left. That's probably enough time to like get into maybe one other character before whatever the finale is. But maybe they don't even bother because I feel like they've kind of got the main people covered. So I'm just looking for like what's the extra twist for whatever the last game is, right? Because this is not even though it's the last game in their set, right? Like this is the final. This decides who gets out of the block. I don't know if it's gonna go 4 episodes. I don't know.
I don't think they can't make this 4 episodes. I
mean, it's a sports anime, so they could do it,
but they haven't so far. Like they've been really like moving with the pacing. So if they made this one match 4 episodes, I would literally be like, "What do you? Let's like." It doesn't have to be another match. It could be something with Ego where he's just like,
it could be.
He's like, "Y'all got a 1-on-1 tournament now. What you gonna do?"
So I presume the season's gonna have to end on a cliffhanger, and my guess is that the cliffhanger is gonna be what the stage is after the first blocks, right? And they're gonna definitely do something to shuffle up because I can't imagine they're gonna throw away all of the characters that they've put time into, from the other teams.
Oh, maybe they'll.
So I'm curious.
Maybe they'll.
Like, I could imagine like all-star teams, like the highest scorers from every losing team get put on. I don't know. I'm just like, I like to think of like economy of story.
Ego will let them choose, basically like you get to choose 3 people to like stay with, and you all have to unanimously choose each other. So maybe that's why those 4 keep getting shown, because maybe they stick together.
That's a good point. In fact, to expand on that, because the structure of the show so far has been like basically rebuilding soccer. Like you're starting from nothing, no concept of team identity,
hop around and
no
build
position.
A new team.
Well, yeah, and more to the point, like there's no bench. Like, in soccer, it's really about rotations. It's not just like, oh, these are the 11. It's just 11 on 11 until you drop. Like, niggas would die if that's how actual soccer was played. So they usually have more people on a team than 11. So I'm just curious is, like, what happens to the time we've spent with some of these other characters who, by definition, kind of get yeeted out of the story, like, both literally and figuratively.
I'm actually shocked, and I still feel like Homeboy from the first and second episode is going to show back up.
Maybe, yeah, I can see that.
I could see like all the losers from that very first round popping back up in some form or fashion.
Yeah, my only hope is like they've done a good job of not doing the enemies become friends thing too early. Because it has to happen, because that's kind of like, everything from like Power Rangers to any classic shonen like Vegeta, like there's always a character or two in these types of series that were like they were the bad guy, but then they're like a fan favorite, so they wind up in the main party just because. And it's a team sport game, and they probably need more players, and they've kind of written at least one of them out of the show. So I'm just curious if it goes in that direction or not, because it might not. You know what I mean? It's perfectly reasonable that it wouldn't.
Yeah, they could be highlighting these other characters as characters that might be joining them in the future. But I also really enjoyed what he did with the King guy. I forgot his name. Where Homeboy literally was just like, I still wrecked your ass. Like, I still got you.
Yeah, that one, I don't think he's coming back because he's the same character as Isagi, unless you want to bring him in as like, if you remember Haikyuu.
Well, he's going on because he's the high scorer on his team. I don't think his team is going to pass as a whole.
True. We do know that those people are coming back. Like, they're still going to be in the tournament. But I'm thinking, like, in a Haikyuu, how they had, like, the backup setter who was, like, the senior, but, versus Kageyama. Like, that character was important for the story later. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, the story could have just been him getting replaced. But instead, that's not what it turned out to be. So I'm curious if they do something similar. If they have, like, an Isagi-like character, but they put him on the team. So, like, when they have to do rotations, all of a sudden, it's like the team isn't weakened. Right. I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah. Well,
I don't know. I'm throwing it there. I enjoyed this episode. There was also a lot of good animation because we got some of the match kind of at the end, but then we also had all that stuff that was happening in the middle with like Isagi and what is his name with the spiky hair? I'm always forgetting the black hair guy on his team when they were training in the middle of the episode.
Oh yeah, I don't know his name. The one that keep calling everyone peasants.
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot.
So we got that and him like his ability to judge distances and all that stuff. So
it seems as though he's getting a little bit better as like manifesting it on demand. It's not all gonna happen at once, but I mean that's what Ego told him. He was like, you can't just rely on luck. You gotta have that shit at the ready. So
yep. So that was you got a little bit of everything. Backstory for the opposing team, training for the team for Isagi's team, team building, strategy, a little bit of the soccer game. So it's kind of like everything that the show does in small doses for the whole episode. So I was into it.
I'm surprised Monk Boy actually did something useful this episode also. So
oh my God.
That's surprising.
What's his weapon? Is it that he never gives up? I don't know.
It probably is his weapon.
It could be
useless.
The grit as a weapon. That's possible. It's possible.
Well, he doesn't have the physical capability to do it, so that's whatever.
No.
We can do Gundam.
I liked it. I like what they were doing, even though we didn't have any like serious action. We're getting it next week.
I don't care about the action. I was waiting the whole episode for that nigga to reveal he's a snake. I was like, he's a snake. And it's so obvious.
He is, but he kind of isn't too. Like,
well, last episode, Miorine was like, I used to know this nigga. I don't know this person anymore. And I was like, I hear you. And it's just like constant, just like inching like all over the episode and then talking about his vision beyond the father. I was like, I said it. I literally said it like in my video. I was like, this nigga wants the company. Like he doesn't, he doesn't want just Adriel. Like he wants that company. And that's exactly what the fuck happened. And I knew the episode was not going to end without some drama. And of course they dropped it right at the end. So now it's like it's public. Basically, they're gonna have to do like a little bit of world building on like the laws of the student council,
right? That you can just change that. You can just like it turns out that we own your Gundam anyway. Do something about it for safety reasons.
So of course, it's going to lead to a battle. She's gonna have to fight him for ownership of that. But let's get to Prospera and oh my God, Prospera and Suletta's little conversation at the beginning. I was
full of lies.
When she went like this in front of the window and it gave her like that like Jesus like silhouette.
Oh Bob! Oh yes! Oh, she's so great.
It's over.
Lies.
I was like, your mama is evil. I don't know how yet. But
full
she
of lies.
And I know when at first I was like, oh, she's going to give me and Renee a hard time by giving her the Gundam shit. And she told her, she was like, oh, we couldn't figure this out. And we couldn't figure that out. No, what she's going to do is she wants me and Renee and them to figure it out themselves and then come to her and be like, we found this. Did you realize it all the time? And she's going to be like, of course I did.
I love how her reaction was like when Suletta asked, hey, Bob, you kind of lied to me my whole life about Ariel, my sister. You know, like you told me.
Did you catch what she said? My daughters?
Yes,
she called them my daughters.
I thought that was so interesting. So, I think Suletta's a clone.
Yeah,
I think she's a clone.
Just a younger clone.
Yes, I think she's just a clone. We've already established that you can do that. You can like flash clone someone. They get all the same memories, right? Then we saw another group of witches.
Pale is the only one. That
right. Yeah. It's all the same technology. Like there's even an in-storyline reason as to why you would do that. Because Suletta was the only... Well, not Suletta. The daughter was the only one who was able to break past that... The permit level.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
so something... Right. Something about her brain made that shit possible. But it's also the case that, like, when she did it, she was, like, a small child, and we don't know, like, how traumatizing that was. We don't know anything else. It is highly possible that, like, Prospera thought to herself, like, okay, no one else can do this. I watched my husband die trying to do this shit. I sure as fuck can't do this shit. And I've got this golden goose. If I clone her, she could be the way you get Gundams to work. So it's not the... So Ariel is not the key. The Gundam is not the key. It's the girl. If you can mass produce the girl, then you can use Gundams however much you want.
Oh my god. Oh no, my brain! Oh fuck!
It could be, and again, it could be none of the above. But what if
lines.
But we've already seen so many characters in this series get killed by the Gundam technology. It's the driving force behind most of the like negative relationships. Is someone in your family died trying to do some shit with Gundams, right? The thing, like, so that's what I mean. Even the pale stuff, before, when we got like Alan and like that story around like the different copies and clones, the key that they were trying to develop was the pilot. It wasn't the machine. That's, you know what I mean? So it's like I could see a parallel happening with Prospera. We don't know what the plan is, but I will just say this: she didn't seem too irritated that her company just got absorbed by a bunch of fucking children. Didn't seem too mad that they were pushing an agenda to make Gundams way more palatable to the public on a medical technology.
She also did not give Miorine the medical Gundam knowledge.
Nope.
She didn't give that shit to her. It was the other witch who gave it to her. So it's kind of just like, why wouldn't you? Well, we all know why. So what I'm seeing is in future where this is where the other Gundams are going to come from. Suletta clones. So this is going to be Suletta clones all over the place. So she's going to have a mind break. It's going to
be some end of Evangelion, a million Rei Ainamis.
She's going to have a mind break. Either that, or I was thinking, because me and Renee was like, oh, we have two options, and I was just like, this is Gundam. You're doing both.
Right.
You will develop.
It's all the above.
Yeah, it's all of the above. You will do it. So for a second there, I was thinking, oh, maybe the key to like getting the permit levels is like human sacrifice or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. So like, I thought a fucked up thing if like the students that are working there act like half of them became Gundams and the other half piloted the friends.
That'd be hilarious.
That
would be dark as fuck.
What
does that remind me of? There's another series that, I mean, like that's like an Evangelion thing where it's like all the Evas are like somebody else, it's Shinji's mom or like whoever. Yeah. So there's like like there's that influence. There were also some things that were pretty subtle. So like Sadiq in this episode, the reason why I like his character is that we've already seen children of like these major companies either do the I'm cooperating or I'm rebelling move.
Yeah.
And Shadiq is taking the middle path where it's like, I'm neither cooperating nor rebelling. I just want to do things my way because I think the way that, you know, my father wants to do things is wasteful. Yeah. And I have a feeling that, like, while the plan to get the Gundam is clearly going to fail, he's a schemer and not necessarily one who's like a malicious schemer. You know, he's just very competent. Like, I like how he's got another fucking anime where someone's got an all-woman army, right? Like, Shadiq's got all his bitches in line. Like, you know, we do what we gotta do. Because when they did that pull-out scene, all I could see were the different colored mobile suits that we're gonna get when they're adults. You know, like his little knights, you know, whatever, but they're all gonna be, you know, I already see it. I see the merchandising.
God.
They all have different colored hair, and it's like, that's his bitches.
The mobile suits, they won't have the little floofs. It'll actually be hair.
Yo, that would be fucking sick, though. That would be sick. I'm not gonna lie. I would buy that immediately, too. But, like, he kind of says it very clearly. He knows what he's after. It's not... You said the company, and I agree with you, because he has a thing with Miorine. But this goes back to what we talked about last week, of the possibility of, like, how you could take that storyline. You can go one of two ways. He could be the supporter of Miorine when she eventually leaves Gundam because of whatever her, you know, the breakup is, right? Because he's always wanted to work with her.
Because they're setting up a schism already.
Oh, 100%.
It's like, medical, but some people are going to inch towards we need to do mobile.
The military. And I have a feeling that what happened... I mean, all right, I don't have a feeling. This is just me wishfully creating a story that may or may not occur. But we saw in this episode that when they were trying to come up with, like, how to run the company, Mirai did not give a shit, one way or the other, about, like, what the ethical responsibilities of the company were going to be. She even said it herself. She was like, bro, there's two ways we can make money. The easy way, we could sell weapons. And we could just be indiscriminate about who we give it to, so it's not like a political thing. We just sell to whoever wants to buy them. And she was totally okay with that. That was right there on board. The other way to do it would be to, like, rebrand what they're doing as, like, medical technology. We could say that we're saving everybody. Now, very clearly, all the people who are interested in their company are just going to take their tech and apply it to their stuff. However they want. So we know that is just gonna happen no matter what. But on top of that, now if you want to do the split, here's as you point out, here's the line that you can take. There were people who were from Earth that were there that were like, bruh, I don't feel comfortable developing weapons of war given how devastated the Earth was in the past through warfare. And there were other people... And there were other people who were like, fuck it, I don't care as long as you pay me. And there were other people who were like, actually, I think we should, and then sell them only to Earth people. So guess what? Who's the one person who wants to go to Earth desperately over all other things? It's Miorine. Who's the one person who doesn't give a fuck about selling weapons to anyone? It's Miorine. Who's the person or the group of people who are like, it would be kind of cool if we just made some ultimate weapons, took them down to Earth, and took our shit back? It's like half the fucking company. So when you do the split, whatever the reason, you hook up Miorine, Suletta's mom, Prospera. Yeah. The militarized technology that they've developed through their whatever they're doing. Gundaming, And then the funder is Shadiq because he ousts his dad doing that. Oh. And now he gets to work with Miorine, but Miorine ain't feeling him. Right? Like all this for him is a proxy for the relationship that he wants to have with her. And maybe he wants to own her too. Maybe that's like, because they said, remember, she was like, he was an orphan, and he's somebody who will, like, by any means necessary, will get to the top, but she's something that he can't have. So that's the sort of, like, sad part of their relationship, is that he's going to get...
right, because when he was talking to Guel, he said that shit under his breath, and he was like,
yep, 100%.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the best part is that he's going to make I feel this is true. He's going to make a play at Guel, right? But Guel's going to turn him down in order to become Suletta's knight. Shadiq is going to be Miorine's knight.
Oh,
so you set all that up,
I can't
right?
believe they're skipping a core for this. I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. Just like
so that I can just see that, right? Because he also Shadiq's got all his girls, so those are your fodder, like mini bosses and whatever the fight's coming up again.
Like on the way to or away from Earth,
you also get to split up the Earth team because, like, you know, Choo Choo, who hates space Spacians is definitely going to be on Suleta's side. Actually, that's the
yes. I think because I think her response to it was helping the people on Earth. So I don't think she would want to basically like start another war.
Exactly.
My family's gonna die.
Which is sort of like a curve. It's like you would initially think the way her character is presented that it's going to be like, oh, she'd be all pro Earth, everything else. But like, nah, she still wasn't feeling Miorine to begin with. And her and Suleta have shed blood together already.
Yeah,
in these fucking trenches.
Have.
So I am not saying we can. Right. And she was rocking the bonnet, that's true. And we also have one of the guys who was like, the two friends, the boys who are like very separate. One was like, I'll do it for the money. One was like, actually I'm definitely like pro Earth, so let's get these guns down there.
Yeah.
So you could move them on one side. You could get the other girl who's like the engineer. She kind of goes with slow people. So you could just see the split. So give me the fucking time skip. I don't know what it's gonna get us there.
We're definitely getting a time skip. I just hope it's not just these 24 episodes. Like they can do so much more. They can do so much more.
Do you know the wildest way they could end this season? It's just a scene, right? Whatever the betrayals happen. You get the fight with Ariel. People start to, you think you're gonna get the final confrontation, and then what do you hear over the radio in space?
Ari.
You hear Ari singing "Happy Birthday," but it's another clone in another. Anyway, because we've already done it twice
on Suleta's birthday.
Yep, and we've already done it 2 times already. Prologue and
birthday.
in the Alan
her 18th birthday is when shit hits the fan.
That should be crazy. So I'm with it.
Great setups, just overall. I'm enjoying, I don't need to fight every episode. Like they've done such a good job. I'm just like, nigga, I'm not here for the side. I mean, I appreciate when you give it to me, but overall, it's just really enjoying it.
Right.
So how is this other shit going? What's going on? I saw it's Chainsaw Man. Someone threw up in somebody's mouth.
Yep.
Is that what's going on?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'll get to it eventually.
We're not gonna go full spoiler, but a major character death occurs in in the most recent episode, and then prior to that, you got Denji all up in his feelings, like having murdered the Eternity Devil. Has like a very tense but enjoyable meeting with the full squad. Is it Squad 4 or whatever? Mm-hmm. Like they finally so you meet basically everybody's in that squad. Kobeni is acted still sus, but like her normal level of sus, like just
okay. So there's been this like whole Kobeni situation. Listen, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, you're right.
It's with specific YouTube reactors and TikTok and stuff getting dragged from Twitter to TikTok. Mm-hmm. And I'm just actually so shocked that people are going this crazy over a fictional character. Like, it's actually fucking insane. I haven't even watched the episode where the initial stuff happens with Kobeni, but I've literally seen people being like, oh my God, like, would you treat a woman in real life like this? Blah, blah. She's not real. She's not real, my nigga. Like, oh my God. But very much so interesting to see someone using outrage marketing in real time and just being extremely successful with it. Like, my God. Shout out to you if you somehow come across this. Shout out to you. Because I don't want to say their name because I don't want to send more people their way. In the case that they're like, oh, fuck them. Like, nah. Leave them alone. But outrage marketing, very, very interesting.
The Kobeni stuff is so funny because where does it have to come from? It has to come from people who are very familiar with that character from the manga, right? So if you're familiar with the character from the manga, you know she's, even in the world, she is annoying as fuck, right? They think she's very cute, but they also think she's super fucking annoying. And then, like, the show comes out, and you're introduced to her and the VA work. By the way, I heard the English dub, too. The English dub, the VA is putting their foot in that shit the same goddamn way. So, you're mad that the best girl you chose on manga presentation annoys the fuck out of you the way she was meant to in the first place. It's weird energy, but whatever. I'm not about to fight these people. It's super interesting. But as far as like the episodes go, major character death, which is handled very, very well. You get like the end of the Eternity Devil stuff in the last week's, and then Denji thinks he's gonna get some like get the kiss that he asked for from Himeno, and she goes in and then she pukes directly into his mouth, which is funny, but they don't walk away from it. Like it becomes like a major point where he's like, my first kiss, and someone puked. It will never leave my memory. Like it's there.
God.
There's some cool stuff happening with the Gun Devils plot. That really picks up, I think, and that's what's going to be the end of the season. So I think there's some cool stuff there.
But that's not the end of the first part.
Well, it probably will cover. We'll probably get through the Gun Devil arc this season.
Okay,
we'll probably get through it.
Is that all of Chainsaw Man Part 1 dealing with the Gun Devil?
Yeah, pretty. Well, no, not all of Part 1 of the manga. It's just the second major arc.
Oh, the arc.
Yeah, they're not that long. The arcs are not that long. Like the Bat Devil one is only like 5-6 chapters in the manga.
Okay.
6? Maybe it's like 7 chapters in the manga. The Eternity Devil, I think, is only 4 or 5. The Gun Devil one might be 10, 12. I gotta go look. I mean, there's a lot more that gets covered in Chainsaw Man Part 1, and I don't want to give away who the final antagonist of that arc is, but there's a lot that's happening right now with characters we already know that feed directly into that. I would not expect to see that, because the thing is, Chainsaw Man is about 100 and some odd chapters.
Yeah.
If you do the like 2 to 2.5 chapter per episode thing, which is how stuff normally works out, you could sort of in your head get it to about like 45 episodes maybe, which is 4 cores. So that's a lot of material. You know what I mean?
Oh wow!
Depending on how they split
part
it
1.
up.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, about 100. Like 100 chapters to me equals about like a full year's worth if you were just going back to back to back every week. 40, 50 episodes. Which is why like some series, when they really try to smash everything down to fit in like a shorter runtime, I think the pacing gets all fucked up. So that's my guess. They're taking their time
here.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think that's where we're gonna be this season. We'll end with the Gun Devils plot kind of working itself out.
Okay.
On Bleach, I don't know if you're watching Bleach.
I think Squad Zero showed up this week.
Squad Zero shows up. I have some quibbling about a couple of designs, but that's because they've stepped back. Well, they've just stepped back into like their more traditional, cheaper art style after everything that they kind of built up for the fighting part of the arc. So like, there's some things I think don't look quite as good as they could, but it's just a function of a lot of static, like on model drawing that's just guys talking. So you don't get a lot of like the dynamicness of. And like,
they weren't really doing anything with like camera angles or anything.
Nothing special. Like a lot of very traditionally shot. Again, a lot of like head on. Just you see a face and some mouth flapping, or a pullback shot, or maybe an aerial. They're not doing anything special or interesting. There's a lot of exposition because remember they have to do all the introductions for Squad Zero. They also spend the first half of this week's episode on essentially like a after action kind of report on who's still alive and who's dead, who's incapacitated, and so on. So like, and you have to do that. Like you just went through a major
and niggas was
a lot of like people getting fucked up. So like you gotta kind of settle out like what does our cast look like right now. And then we actually do get some shots of I don't know what they call it, but like where Squad Zero is, there are like 5 floating areas for each of the members. So we get to actually see that. Again, I think that a lot more could have been done with the back half of this episode as far as like making things feel a lot cooler, because I remember reading the manga and feeling like, yo, Bleach universe has got blown the fuck up, and then you like see it in motion. It's like, oh, okay, it's just like another place, and it's not like they're not trying to make it as cool as it could be.
Oh, okay. Well,
but they spent all their money last episode.
They've been doing a good job so far. Maybe this is just
yeah. It's fine.
Who knows?
It's totally fine. Eminence and Shadow, a lot of fun this episode.
Are they finished with the next arc or whatever?
They are finished with the school invasion.
Okay.
And
so then
they sort of left the lines open for how the season's going to end. I don't know what the final arc is going to be.
Better. Let me get caught on that because the new one came out today. Yeah, let me get.
One thing that's interesting, again, so the show in and of itself doesn't have to do very much. We already kind of know what the core premise is. We got the characters. You know what moments we're looking for. In this last episode, they've introduced what I would call like an emotional and moral complication that is very good, but it's also unnecessary. So the fact that they're doing it, they've basically taken a character that you would think would just be a supporter and turned them into a future like blood feud rival. But it's like it's very emotionally driven, where now you have Sid and the red-haired girl, the scientist.
Yeah.
So they know each other and they are very close as a result of what happened. But then Shadow is now her blood rival because of the events at the end of the episode. And so she doesn't realize that. And they really play it up for the emotional value. And it's probably the first time like the character of Sid inhabited he inhabited the Shadow character, where he says something, a variety of things to himself that it's like, oh, I realize that like I'm actually doing something that's going to destroy a relationship that I have built, but I'm doing it for the good of that person. And I'll just carry that weight because of it. Which is like, it's not out of character. It's a very Batman thing to do. But it's also...
In which way did he say it? Was he stroking his dick while he was saying
No, it was like... Because no one else would have been there to experience it.
To receive it, okay.
There's a weird kind of like whiplash that if you don't understand the silliness that they're playing with, it can feel tonally dissonant, where you have on the one hand in the same episode he's talking about like, man, I'm getting to play out this scenario, this is great, and he's having a good time, and then you see him as Sid having very like relatively mature conversations with other characters that seem not manipulative. They're just, if he was just a typical heroic character in that world, that's how he would act. And then you get the Shadow interactions, which are... You could imagine that character Shadow doesn't have those other features. They're just a leader of a dark organization on, out to kill all the bad guys and get over. And the fact that all three of them, for the most part, are always kept very separate from each other, like his reactions. It's like he's inhabiting character A, character B, character C. This is the first time that like character maybe B and C have kind of like come together in a way, which is like, I liked it. It adds a little bit more depth, so now it's making all these layers of who he is kind of play with each other. It's also unnecessary because the show doesn't need to do any of that to get over the silly shit, but they went for it in this this segment. I mean, I thought it was good. I thought the episode was good. There was a nice lower budget action scene at the end that you could tell throughout the whole episode they were saving money, because there was like still shots for things happening where they could have fully animated it. Which, I'm weird because I'm the type of person where I actually get happy when I see that, because I'm like, okay, if you're pulling back the budget here, it means that it's being invested somewhere else. And the show's already given us a couple of like good action scenes where they put their money where they needed to put it. Mm-hmm. So that they kind of did a little bit of that in this episode, but maybe you don't need to go any further than that. When you get to seeing it, I think you'll kind of see what I mean, where there's layers that are good. They're just like, we don't need to do all that. Okay. But they are doing it. So good for them.
Cool. I mean, I saw the mobile game dropped. The boobs are jigglings. They're jigglings.
I mean, that's what that's for. That has one purpose and one purpose only.
Exactly.
So I did not watch Shinobi Ittoki, but I did watch.
I saw some chatter about Shinobi no Ito. Apparently, like the most recent episode or something.
It's good. No, it got a big shout out from some bigger creators as saying it's some of the good trash of the season. You know? And
okay.
I would agree with that. I would agree. It's like ninja everything. Ninja business, ninja economics, ninja government organization, ninja, whatever it is. It's like ninja everything. And it's like, it's funny in places. It's kind of a typical shonen in other places. It's like a little bit of slice of life, a little bit of like sci-fi, but it's like ninja everything. Everything is nin. So it's fine if you like that. I actually watched, I can't believe I did this, the first 4 episodes of Love Flops because...
Oh, wow. Okay, I've not watched a single episode, but the opening is hilarious.
The first episode...
Every time I see the part where the dog is bending that bitch over in the park, I scream.
That dog comes back. The dog fucking comes back,
oh my god! Okay, so wait, what did you think? Oh my god.
Alright, so just full disclosure, I'm not into like harem anything.
Yeah.
Like it's generally a turn off. I will overlook it if it makes its way into like a genre I'm generally interested in. Like the romance side of anime is not always for me. I've watched a few that are very, very, very good. But like I think what was it? Dress Up Darling. Just going back, I think it's just very, very. That's just a good, well presented drama that does have harem aspects to it, but it's better managed. That's not the focus of it. It ain't the focus. I mean, that's really again like there's part of it that's for the audience. There's part of it that exists inside the show. So Love Flops is a very specific. And first of all, I think Passione is a studio, so they just do porn. So it's like. There is an uncensored version. I actually watched the censored version up to episode 4, and then I kind of realized, like, everything clicked in my head because I was like, oh, right, Passione does this. Oh, right, they always have an uncensored version. But there really wasn't anything that caught me in the first 3, where I was like, oh, this is what they censored to make the show work for TV. 4 was like, okay, there are boobs here that would just be out otherwise.
Okay.
So... Because I usually will pick the uncensored version just because that's what was made. That was the original concept.
Yeah.
So if it's gonna be porn, just let it be porn. The show is. My only takeaway was I picked it up to watch it because someone said in a review that it wasn't clear whether or not it was real or a virtual reality. So I was hoping that would play a bigger role in the first few episodes, so that there was like this tension between like, okay, this is all coincidentally stereotypical harem anime protagonist stuff happening in a sci-fi world that has some violence in it. Like there's like people can die and whatever, but is this going to be a psychological undertone to the show? Yeah. And outside of the first episode, I can't say that I see a lot of evidence of that. But obviously, that's half of the runtime. In the first episode, there's a lot to lead you to believe that something is unusual about what's going on.
I know in the opening, it shows when that girl turns around, her face is like distorted or something.
And it's like there's that scene of him sort of collapsing almost into the Matrix or something.
Oh,
makes you feel like that's what the show is. And of course, like his family is gone. It's just like he only really talks like this disembodied robot. Everything that happens in the first episode is predicted by an AI fortune teller on television, which he is skeptical about. And then as things start to happen more and more, it gets weird. There's a scene at the very end of the first episode where it feels like at least one of the characters already knows him, but he does not know this character, implying that and you see like a flash of a much older face. Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's something there, but it doesn't show up really.
They're like drip feeding it.
Yeah, and then the next 3 episodes is all very stereotypical, get to know each girl.
Okay.
Kind of deal. And though I appreciated episode 2, so there's a weird character named Ilya who is presenting female.
It's a trap.
But is presenting. Sorry, let me say this very clearly. Is seen as a very cute and attractive person who is mistaken for being female when they are trying to present male, but in reality they are actually female. So it's a 3-layer thing,
okay.
which kind of gets resolved in a bit of a gag in episode 4. And then but the real issue is that her father wanted her to be a guy or something, and then I don't know. But there was a line that I appreciated in the second episode where he gets a letter from the main character gets a letter from his dad and says, you know, these are all potential marriage partners for you. You get to choose. And then it's like, you're wondering why there's a guy here. I think he essentially said the equivalent of, it's 2022. You can love anybody you want, which is like cool, you know, like
yeah.
Okay. But then it turned out to not to be a guy. But then they have to hide that from everybody else for the rest of the show.
Oh, okay.
So again, it's no problem. There's no like. I don't think that's an issue at all. I think that if they want to play with that stereotype, but they want to keep it at arm's length, that's a totally reasonable thing to do as long as you don't exploit it too much. Like the one gag that they had was basically they have everyone has to go to the hot spring or whatever. All the girls go to their side. The character's pretending to be a man goes to the boy side with the main character, but then they realize that they won't be able to hide the fact that they don't have a penis, and so they find like a Tengu mask. And then, because these are young people for the most part, so they don't really understand like anatomy. So a Tengu mask has the long nose.
Yeah.
So they have the Tengu mask where their dick should be, and they
it just
cover
looks
it
like
up.
They're hard the whole time.
Right, and so then that leads to the misunderstanding with the main character, who is very okay with the fact that he could marry a dude. You know, like he's kind of like talked himself into it as like a possibility, and then it obviously then it gets resolved as like, okay, it's actually a girl. But now the main character, and Ilya have to work together going forward to maintain the illusion that she is really he for real.
Okay. For
their dignity, because this has something to do with their relationship with their father, and they're not ready to blah 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 blah. Whatever. Okay. So, do I like this series? Not really. Do I hate it? Also, not really. I think like it's decently produced. There is a lot of intrigue, but I just kind of wish that like they played with that a bit more, like the sci-fi part of it and the interpersonal intrigue part of it. Like if they just played with that a little more consistently outside of the first episode, I could maybe recommend it to people because
that'll come back in once they've.
I think it does.
Like
I think everything I've heard is that like yes, that is a part of the story, but I wasn't gonna spend all week watching this, so I basically got through like the first 4 and I'm like, all right. And then I saw like the porn part, I'm like, I'm not that interested in that because it's vanilla, it's like softcore stuff, like no one's fucking, so it's like, what do I care? It's like, you know, I can enjoy the show without it. It's probably like better without it if I want to be fully honest about it.
Labyrinth level fucking.
No, and like that one again, there were times when I'm like, this show would be a lot better if there was none of this, and then there were times when I'm like, well, if you're just gonna make the porn, you go all the way, and they do. So it's the balance of that is again like, you know, I'm right in the middle. I'm not recommending that to everybody, but I do recognize game. So if they do something, if a show does something right, I'm gonna point that out and be like, this piece of this fiction was handled really well, and then the others, if they do something wrong, I'm like, I could do without that part. So that's really about it as far as other things that I watched. Oh, Mob Psycho, 100%, excellent.
The only thing, I mean, clearly I'm behind on a lot of stuff, but I was too busy reading Player, the manhwa that James recommended, and so I didn't want to say it, but I definitely was just like, this is definitely influenced by Tower of God.
Oh, I said that from jump. 100%.
Like, I kept trying to deny it, but I was kind of just like, oh, no, this is just there are too many things. Yep. And it's not like it's ripping it off. It's just influenced by it. Like, clearly influenced by it. But also, personally, I'm enjoying it. So when you first talked about it and you were like, you know, it's just good shonen and da-da-da-da and stuff like that, I was like, okay, yeah, what we gonna do, da-da-da, he gonna get power-up arcs really quickly. And he actually didn't. There was a lot of failing in the beginning. A lot. And I was like, oh, so when he actually did the training arc and the power-up, I was like, this was earned. Like, I really felt like he earned it. Now, we didn't see the training in particular, but...
Right.
You know, that was that. I like how there is a... I don't even know how to describe Avalon. Like...
Right.
Avalon is whatchamacallit, jihad, the jihad government or whatever.
That might be a reasonable, because they kind of have the aesthetic a little bit. Yeah.
But so even so, I for some reason or whatever, like wherever I'm reading it, the translators are like they're pulling it from I guess like different scan groups. So like for a chunk of it, I was like, this shit don't make no sense. Like the translation does not make any sense. And then all of a sudden, I started reading it and I was like, okay, it makes sense. So I feel like I definitely missed out on certain world building aspects or aspects of like conversations between characters.
Right.
But if I had one thing that I actually did not like about it, it was the rivalry not. Like I'm not completely caught up.
Okay.
But what is the Seoljin?
Yeah, and the
what is his name?
dude.
Itawan? Not Itawan. I'm thinking
No,
Itaewon Class. What the fuck is his name? Blonde guy though. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Is it It's not Arthur. Is it Arthur?
Taewon.
Oh, Taewon. Yeah,
Taewon. It's Taewon. There we go.
Taewon Kim. Yeah.
I truly wanted them niggas to go at it and Skyoljin to whoop his ass. I was like dying because as they were going through like the player test, Taewon was like, this nigga is actually like, this is kind of stronger than me. Like, hold on a second.
Yeah,
and
like he got his soul crushed.
Yes, I was.
But you didn't get like the beating that he deserved.
Yeah, like it ended in a draw, and then he was just like, I give up, like blah blah blah. And then the proctor was like, I recognize you. I'm gonna power you up, nigga. And I'm like, no.
So you're like, no, just whoop his ass.
Yes, I was like, you need to ass whooping. You need to ass whooping before you get the power up and become a friend. That's not how this works. So that was like my main little gripe. I thought that the Lilith and Liber and that stuff, I thought all that stuff was handled very well because it wasn't just the like, oh, she loves him from the jump. It was like kind of like people acknowledging it, and then that shit was so awkward where he was just like, I like you.
Yeah,
do I like you? And I cringed. I was like, "Ooh!" And then everyone in the fucking manhwa was like, "Nigga, what? Why would you say that?"
Because they're kids, and so like they do like the version I read had a lot of like notes from the translators.
Oh, okay.
And so it wasn't like oh, let me explain the scene. It'd be like something like that would happen, and then they would have a little note like, I can't believe it. It'd be like in the notes.
Oh, I think I have those translators now because when I was reading it with that, it was just like nothing. But now there's like 2 or 3 people under like big moments where they're just like, oh, he's fucked. Or something like that.
Well, Excalibur would be jumping in on shit. Like,
now, when she realized her jealousy, that's when shit got like dicey. And then even Lilith was like, I'm not giving up. Like, fuck you. And then shit went to shit at the end of the player test. Cause the fact that Nagi just showed up and was like, I'm not talking, I'm just killing you niggas. It was just like, wow. Like, what the fuck is this? And then God coming into it and like taking over his body.
Yeah, when he started playing it like he had a controller, I was like, yo, that's sick.
But I actually really enjoyed that because you could tell how different his body was moving with God. Like his body was moving almost like it was tuned like it was like the curves or like using the sword. It looked like he was going like this as opposed to like a hard slash. It was I really liked how they were like, this is not the same person. And then even God was like talking to the vice captain and like Avalon and all this shit. The purple power. Really like the setup that they're doing for Pastis.
Pastis, I don't know how you pronounce the name. Pastis,
yeah.
Pastis.
That nigga's gonna be broken one day. He
has a very Hunter like ability.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I was just like, this nigga's ability is, at the time, I was like, this nigga's ability is like on another level than like, because everyone else is just like, this is my ability. And they explained the conditional abilities, but to see him like, basically he has to be like Shikamaru. Like he has to
he's that he is definitely in that archetype.
Yeah,
100%.
Like, he's the Shikamaru. Like he has to know what the fuck is going on and notice everything, because if he has to step in, that's how he's going to, get the.
And you see that at the end of the exam, or that when everything kind of falls apart. Like
with Dean,
right like you kind of get the feeling like, okay, like this guy, that's where he's gonna stand out. And they give, I don't know. I think it's around like chapter 70-ish. I think that's where
I'm on like 79.
Okay, so like 70, 80. So like by that point, I think in my own head, I was like, oh, this is different than a lot of other series, because a lot of time is spent giving feats to the supporting cast. It's not just like we see it only from the perspective of the main character, which is to me, it's one of the biggest weaknesses of a lot of the what I call like the webtoon format of shonen, which is that I get it. Like these series take a lot of effort to produce. It's more than just like it's not just is drawing and coloring. so they're I assume they're a little more expensive, even though they're very digital. And so one of the problems is you get a very first person experience with a lot of these series, because they basically don't have the time to be like spending many chapters on things that have nothing to do with the main character. And so whenever you have guys or supporting characters that come in, typically they do one thing and then they get relegated back to like support, because
like 10 chapters
a lot
them when fighting when Dean and Soljin went into that like space. Yep. And the niggas were still outside. That was a long period.
And they do that more and more from as the cast expands. Like you even just go think about like as you read it. Like in the beginning, it was like 100%. It was Soljin. It was like just him. Then you got like, okay, so Arthur the god is there, and like he'll jump in the not talking to anyone but commenting on something that's happening. Yeah. And then you get a little bit of like Excalibur's internal like monologue, but as soon as you add Dean, then you add the dude who uses like the cloth or the paper, like his second in command. I forget what the guy's name is. The first guy that they fight in the town, who trains them. Takes them to the forest.
Ran.
Yeah. Then you get like more development of like his relationship with Dean, and then you start adding all the people from the exam. So your Lilith, your Pastis, the baseball bat demon chick, like.
Yeah, I still remember her name.
They each start to get more and more time where it's not them and Soljin, it's them by themselves overcoming something. It's them with each other doing things together, developing relationships. So by the time you get to like where you're at, realistically, about 30% of most of the content that you have going forward is not really dealing with the main character. It's dealing with all of the side things. Then you start to get more with the enemy factions and the different guilds, and people kind of split up. And as you point out, that it felt a lot like Tower of God. It's not just in the framing of the world or some of the ideas. It's also in the presentation of the character arc, because you're probably like almost there, but they do almost the same thing that happens between chapter 1 and chapter 2, or whatever, season 1, season 2. I don't know what you're Tower of God, where it's like, okay, now we're gonna split everybody up, and you get these like bits for everything, and the structure is almost, you could just tell that the author read Tower of God and like, this is a great device, because now that I've built a little world, I've given you some rules, I've given you some feats, some cool stuff to look at. I've given you a cast of characters that gel together. I can now blow them up. I can go send this person that way, this person that way. I can fuck with these relationships. I can do something to make them all want to be separate from each other, but then I give them a reason to come back together. And I would say that, as you point out about not really getting the satisfying Soljin versus Taewon, I felt the same way right where you were, and then they did some stuff in the story where I was like, okay, if he's not gonna be, if it's not gonna be like the cathartic release of like Taewon understanding how wrong he was through the hard way of getting his face beat in, the fact that they took it another way and basically get to the same place but make him a bridge to another character that we meet early on, but gets no development.
Yeah.
Taewon becomes a bridge to that character, and then you start to understand stuff with Dean and why Dean and that character were not like, why they had the relationship that they had, and it just multiplies like that. So I appreciate that if I'm not going to get what I want, at least what I was given is something I didn't know that I also wanted. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't know if it's as satisfying because it's like my taste.
I would be caught up by that.
Oh yeah,
so we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out.
So what did you think in terms of like the art and like the way that it's presented?
So I am having the hardest time. It's the eye shape, the facial shape.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I don't know what it's reminding me of, but it's
just cartoony. It's very like super deformed.
Yeah, it's deformed. But I feel like I've seen this art style. It almost reminds me. I know it's not like that, but like Billy and Mandy from like Cartoon Network. The way they were kind of like stunted.
If they did it, but it was like, but if it was like animated by Studio Trigger, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Trigger is actually a pretty deep because Trigger's models. I feel as though the faces in this are all very like this.
Yeah.
It's like a hexagon almost.
Yes, it's very sharp edges. What was that character who was like they were like one of the judges for the player test with the eyebrows that they just come out of her head. She has like green
The
hair
one that was like super like buff.
There were like there were three that all had the same design. They're like the sisters or whatever they were, but like they have their eyebrows extend. It's like they're super. First, when I first saw it, I thought like, oh, this is just a stylization of what they look like. But then there's a shot when they're describing how the guilds all decide which players are gonna recruit out of the exam, and that character's walking down a hallway thinking in her head like, oh, I get why Dean was trying to fuck with the rules, and they just show her with her eyebrows go under. Dress. Yeah, they go under her hair and then come out. So they really are like that long. It's not just like a artistic decision. It's like they showed how they interacted with the other hair on her body. So people look fucking like wacky. Like they're very cartoony.
They are, and along with that character, I'm already excited because I'm just like, she's gonna show up in the fucking future, just like how Hansung showed up in fucking Tower God. Because she never expounded upon the smartphone comment. She knew what it was, and she hasn't said anything. She hasn't spoken to Soljin since the fucking beginning of the player test because that nigga died. So it's just like, okay. Well, now what? I mean,
right.
I'm probably going to find out something or whatever. It's going to be happening soon. But overall, like the art style, especially with the fight. So, you know what? One thing that I did notice was I really like the pose scenes, like the portrait scenes. Like when niggas do shit, they show it. Like that they get their what, like 1 page.
Yeah, you could portrait. Like so you could like scroll down through somebody punching, like someone's like punching someone down through multiples.
Oh my god! And that was another thing I noticed. This author loves face to hand fucking.
Oh my god, yes.
Niggas just getting
There are
gripped.
so many people get gripped up, getting like a hole punched into the side of their face. Like,
oh my god! Like as it went on, especially during the player test, I was like, how many people's skulls, like with the full hand, has just went just out of this fucking straight, like so much. But it's good. It's not giving me like, ooh, this shit's fucking hype. I'm just like, yeah, next chapter. Let's keep going. Next chapter.
There's a lot of energy. That's what I felt when even from the first chapter, I always felt that the art communicated a kind of like everyone's like pepped up on caffeine. Like they're all like wide-eyed and like in every scene
the
like
wide
this.
eyes. Yes. Yeah. One thing that I really liked from at the end of the player arc, which was the Dean fight, is when Dean showed back up and they weren't drawing his silhouette. It was just like those like lines with just like the red eyes.
Yeah.
From that alone, I'm just like, this is not good.
When that nigga got serious, I was like, oh no. Oh no.
I honestly thought that was going to go to shit. I was literally just like, I don't know what the fuck. And then I liked how they were explaining, they were telling us what happened during he and Mirage's contract conversation, which I still have, I don't know, well, they'll expound upon that later. But the fact that, and I have a feeling that the unrankers got something to do with Avalon, clearly, but it just hasn't been proven yet. But the fact that like he was talking to him and how the battle was playing out as we learned what they were talking about. But I'm with Sol Jin. When he stopped and he was like, I was still just testing you guys, blah, blah, blah. Sol Jin was like, no, you weren't.
No, you were not.
Like, you were about to kill niggas. Like, nah. So, and that is another thing that I really like. And Dean said it at the end of the player test, but this was also mentioned, at the very beginning, is strength is not everything. You need to be aware of shit. It is about your willpower and your situational awareness and knowing when the fuck to get out. And death was, I guess it was like, portrayed as something, oh, you just lose some memories, blah, blah, blah. But they never tell you how big the memory loss is going to be. And what it is going to be. And
what happens when you change your... Right, and when you get used to it or you normalize it, and then all of a sudden, when all that shit in the forest, when they explained who all those those creatures were, and it's like, oh shit, there are worse things than dying.
Than that, yeah. And so the people in the forest, which that was another thing. I was like, wait, what is Avalon doing to them? Why are they turning into monsters in this? But then that got me too. How Avalon still managed to like do the power grab and like succeeded when at the beginning of the player arc, the vice president was like, oh, well, I guess they got me. It's not gonna go to plan. Blah blah blah.
Psych.
It clearly still went to plan. Like, okay, well, what now? I liked how they introduced the guild masters and their conversations. All very different character archetypes and designs. I haven't gotten into the guild part, but I also liked how they spent that whole chapter on the guy whose literal life mission was to find some kind of continuity between dying.
Yeah.
Dying on the higher floor, dying on the low floor, dying from someone who's higher level, dying from low, and he couldn't find anything. And then at the end of it, he said, dying is literally like, this is something that just happens. Like, if there's any kind of standard or continuity, it's for the people who are winning.
Yeah.
Who are succeeding in the tower. Not for the niggas who are losing.
Right.
This shit is fucked.
And I think that as the series progresses and that the world building aspect becomes more and more the work that was done in the beginning becomes more and more relevant. Because the thing is, like, much like a building, all good stories have a foundation in world building and character drama. You can do a story that is much more well-developed world with like not very well sketched out characters, and you can do the other way around. It still works. It's not like you can't have more of one than another. When you need your stories to your various stories that you're telling over the course of an entire tale to fit together under some like regular structure, it's the world building part that gives you that structure. So like when you learn about gates the first time, that is to set you up for learning more about gates later when it matters to the story. And if you do a good job on the incidental early stuff, then when you want to, like, for example, show somebody that maybe what we all thought about a rule of the world isn't really true in the way people think that it was. You can put the audience in the same place that the characters are with like the, oh shit, hold on a minute, now I gotta recontextualize everything that I learned before. And putting the audience right with your character is one of the most difficult but most critical parts of telling a good story.
But, I gotta give it to them because they've already set this stuff up for like flipping that shit over. Because one thing that I've been noticing so far is that everyone is constantly telling everybody else, you don't know everything about Tower. There's a whole, you don't know this, you don't know that, or I'm not telling you this, and you can't even believe what this is going to be. So, that actually, I mean, I'm probably still going to be surprised whenever they say it, but
You're
that
primed.
Makes absolutely sense.
Yeah.
That makes a
You're
lot of
primed
sense.
for it, and there's even a reason why knowledge is not shared in the way that is consistent within the story, right? There's even what you know right now, you can already tell that like knowledge is probably more important than some kinds of power in that world.
And you know what? There was, as far as like power and everything that goes, and with God, I feel like he hasn't had that many lines, but the lines that he has said, I kept noticing I'm the god of this world. And I'm like, why are you saying this world? Like, in that fight, when Arthur started talking to somebody else other than Sol Jin, and I'm like, wait, what? That's a possibility? Yeah. So that's already like cooking in my brain where I'm just like, this isn't the only world. And also, what was the power that manifested from the chess piece? And he was like, oh, you can't, like, you're going to end up like me, blah, blah, blah. So with that, that started my train going where I was just thinking,
right.
Like, oh, if he can get a similar power than you, then that means either you aren't the only god or this isn't the only world.
Why is Arthur's face blanked out?
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
Did he die so many times that he can't even remember his own face?
I mean, I don't know. There's also I want to give a little bit of props before we get off this to the relation of the power system with the way they want to tell the story. So like I noticed pretty early on that there were some abilities are like, oh, I can copy everything you do. Oh, I can make ice. I can make fire. Okay, you usually start out with things like that, and you kind of work your way up towards more complex stuff. Then you get like Passus's ability. Then you get like the Monkey King's son. Was it Junchan or whatever his name is? Like you have stuff that now you're starting to spread it out, right? Because you have abilities that seem to be derived from like myth and legend. You've got abilities that seem to be very rule based
like
and
spirit
can warp
tamers.
Right, and now you can like warp reality somehow. It's not quite there yet, but later on, one of the best things is the other concepts taken from Hunter x Hunter, where battles become less and less and less about like, oh, I can punch a hole in a star, and more about I need to hide what my abilities do and try to fish out what someone else's abilities do before I can make a move, because if I make the move at the wrong time, I will die instantly. And so that's a lot of characters more and more as we learn, like they even learn like what their abilities can accomplish if harnessed correctly, and also that they are careful. Because in like in the player games, it's more like whatever you can do to survive. There were a couple people who were very judicious about like not giving away all the rules to their own stuff, or trying to find like interesting ways to make their shit work, you know, in a bad situation. I think again, Passus on 2 occasions had to like really figure that shit out and try to like, right. But as others, go ahead.
Didn't they also say that, and I think they like teased it with Sol Jin, how like his ability or his perceived ability is like rapid regeneration or some shit like that, and then like the ability hasn't matured. So I would think like if his ability can mature into something else, and that means like even those people with basic abilities, they could actually, they are something else, or they probably could develop into something else.
His character actually has a lot in common with the best parts of Ichigo, which is that if you remember the beginning of Bleach, Ichigo didn't really have any ability. He was borrowing a lot of his power from, you know, the Zanpakuto, and they spend a lot of time. And I'm not talking about what they did later in the series, but they just gave him everything. And it's like, sure, he could, whatever. He's just strong. I'm fine. He could be Goku. It doesn't make a big deal to me. But like, that archetype of the hero who is weak, who gets by on borrowed ability while they're learning about the world, then they start to train and find what is theirs, and then that's when the power scaling goes from like a linear curve to like your like exponential. Sol Jin follows the same line, but while like unlike say like a bomb who
has like huge power spikes.
Right, his power, like they know from the beginning that like this kid is fucking crazy. Like it's very obvious like from the very beginning. Sol Jin is like the opposite, where like people just assume he sucks and he's whack, and he gets by on Excalibur and whatever his limits are in using her abilities. Well, at some point, the lines cross, and he's the one who is gaining actual real power, more power, and how that interacts, faster, and how that interacts with the rest of the world, the way other characters are also developing, is cool. Like, it's fun. Like, I want to get to the next chapter so I can find out more cool stuff about what all these characters are doing.
I also like the jacket. I thought that was a really nice addition to just like the character design as a whole. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, nah. I think it's cool because it stays on, right?
Yeah.
I think that's actually pretty. That's a pretty cool idea. They get a little bit more into the class system.
Okay.
A little bit. I think it matters very soon.
Because I think they said that, like, if you're of a certain power level, you have to be designated as a class.
Of some sort.
But
it doesn't work the way that you would expect from the genre.
Okay.
And especially in the most up-to-date chapters, where I believe that the author has taken everything that was said about classes and flipped it completely on its head in a cool way to facilitate a very cool moment. A kind of thing that you know, like power-up moments where it's like, okay, where the fuck did this come from? The author found a way to take a moment like that and then weave in a misconception about the way the class system had always worked that made sense with the world and produced some sick shit. Some fucking sick shit. And I'm like, give it to me.
Okay.
So,
well, those are my preliminary impressions of Player. I won't recommend it yet, but the preliminary impressions are very, very fucking favorable.
You got another 60 chapters or so to go, so I think you're...
Yeah, I'm like at the halfway point.
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited that you found something else worth reading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so besides that, I guess you said you weren't really watching much else. Do you have any would this be the recommendation? Would Player be the recommendation? Well, you said you're not doing it this week.
It. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that for this week. If I were to recommend something, I recommended Pokemon last week. It's the same fucking recommendation then.
It's all good.
I got the last week I wasn't at the end of the story. And I finished the game, and y'all children can't play that. I'm just gonna say that I supervise your children when they're beating the game.
Oh no!
Supervise them. That's all I'm gonna say. This is a first for them. They literally, I honestly think that they took the story in the direction that they did because they were like, this. Certain people aren't smart enough or don't have the reading level to get this far. So we're just gonna we're gonna turn it up a little bit because this is like the beginning of Endgame. Little kids ain't gonna reach this shit.
That's interesting.
It was very it was not a happy ending. I'm gonna put it that way. It was not a happy ending.
Okay, damn.
So I recommend it. Still do. With all every person that I've talked to that has bought this fucking game has been like, yeah, it crashed on me 3 times. I don't care, nigga. I don't care. It was fun.
Damn.
It's still fun. Which is true. It crashed on me twice yesterday, and I was like, that's cute. That's what autosave is for.
Yeah,
Thanks.
You're like, whatever, man. We got Pokemon to capture.
Turn this shit right the fuck back on. Let's go. So, yeah, just really, really great. If you want to talk about the ending, anyone, feel free to hop. I've done it all. So, I know what happened. And honestly, kudos to the writer because they actually did a lot with some of the characters that had been around for a long time, but we really hadn't gotten to know them. In the final area where everything hits the fan and shit like that, they did a really good job of having a mandatory sequence where you have to be with those characters as you journey. And the banter was fucking phenomenal. Honestly had me laughing out loud with no voice acting. It's yeah, whatever. That's a gripe for another day. But loved it, y'all. Fucking loved it as I did last week. But
awesome. I guess my only recommendation this week is also a game. It's 2 games. So first is Tactics Ogre Reborn.
Oh man.
Which is it, I'm somebody who loves TRPGs, and historically there's not like a like there are a lot of them, but like the ones that sort of sit at the top of the list that people talk about but maybe don't necessarily have the opportunity to play are things like Final Fantasy Tactics
original, even Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I'm surprised they haven't brought those over.
There's a lot of question marks about that, especially given that they've referenced them in other games.
Yeah.
And of course, Final Fantasy 12 is supposed to take place in the same future universe of Ivalice. And then I know that in the FF14, there's a lot of influences, direct and indirect, over there as well.
From Ivalice and Tactics, Ramza.
Yeah, 100%. So, Tactics Ogre has always been a franchise that was sort of like revered, but revered for reasons that would maybe put off a lot of other players. So, like, if you go back before the PSP remake, Let Us Cling Together, it was a very difficult game to even find in the US. I didn't actually wind up playing it until many years later on emulator because, I mean, I'm old enough to have been alive when it was released, but I could not afford to buy it because it was a rare game. And back in the day, games that were rare cost a lot more money, even brand new. So you look at your little... I
got it on PSP, and then... But I remember PSP had so many fucking games that I played it for a little bit, and I was like, I gotta come back to this, because...
Yeah.
This is
so the original on Super Nintendo, there was a Nintendo 64 separate sort of quasi sequel. I don't know if it was a sequel or prequel. It might have been a prequel, which was also hard to find. Then they remade.
This story has already been going on in other games.
100%.
Yeah.
Then the remake Let Us Cling Together on PSP. Then finally this Tactics Ogre remastered, which is on everything, including PC. So. This is the most accessible, I think, that original Tactics Ogre game has been. They put in a lot of effort to voice every storyline mission, every line of dialogue.
Yes.
And they have sanded down, I think, some of the more tedious aspects from the PSP version,
failing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also but they've also done some other things which I'm not sure how I feel about it to normalize the difficulty across the extent of the whole game. So it used to be in the PSP version that you could, if you wanted to, grind up your characters and build some really crazy combinations of like abilities and other things, and they've largely smoothed out the level equity, but made it almost impossible for you to out-level anything, which I think, if I'm going by what the original developers wanted the balance of the game to be, it should be about bringing the right units to the right battle and then using them correctly and building them out correctly as far as abilities and equipment and everything else. I think like that aspect has been elevated, so it is truly feels like much more of a TRPG. It's not just an RPG where you do moving guys around.
I've definitely felt it more in this game where I can't just throw my favorite units in every fucking battle. Like I actually have to be like, let me go scout the map and see what the fuck is going on.
Yep. And so that's one aspect that I, as someone who enjoys both sides, I like, smart unit compilations, having to think about every aspect of the game. I think that's cool. But I also like power leveling and breaking the game in any way that you can, because I think that's also interesting and fun. I think they've taken away a lot of that side to the benefit of the tactical side. So I've beaten Let Us Cling Together, which is the PSP version, before. I'm currently in the middle of chapter 3 with this one. I could say that
I just started chapter 3.
I'm sorry, I even said that wrong. I'm in the beginning of chapter 4. So
oh shit.
So I really, really like what they've done overall, and like it's the smoothest experience of playing the game because you can more or less, like, without a lot of extra rigmarole, just go mission to mission to mission. And if you have units that are behind, you do like 1 or 2 training missions.
You can do the auto battles.
Yeah, and you can auto battle that shit, and then it's cool. The permadeath stuff on main missions is perfectly fine. I think you can you shouldn't ever lose a unit unless you are really not paying attention to what you're doing.
And they have rewind. Yeah.
So, like, all things considered, I would just, if you're into TRPGs and you've heard of Tactics Ogre, I would say go out of your way to actually pick it up. And maybe for some people, Switch is a good version, but actually, I would maybe argue that PC, just because, yeah. I think it's you get your patches fast. You have access to the community right there. If you have trouble, it's and maybe the play experience, which is slower than it would be on a handheld, is because you don't have to do any tedious shit. And there's like auto battle. Like it might actually be something you could have like second screened while you do other things. If you're like a user like me, who likes to game but has like a couple of monitors, I think it's a fun experience.
I had every intention of getting it on PC, but then I was like, I'm gonna be doing a lot of traveling for the holidays. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get it on Switch, and it's actually not bad. I really don't. I'm pretty sure it looks way better on that, but I like the portability of it, and I have fallen asleep mid-battle in bed with my Switch.
Which is fine.
It gets long. Like, some of those battles, they get long, and you just gotta, like, stick it out, especially when they act. I will give it, the AI in the game, they are fucking ruthless.
They go for the jugular.
My backline, oh my god.
They be all in your shit. You'd be like, how the fuck
did you get over here?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, please.
The only thing I question from, like, I can get through it is fine with me, but the boss characters getting all the cards up front so they can basically one shot most of your units. Yeah. I think it's I get why they do that, and specifically with the new game mechanics in the in this version of the game around the card system. It all fits together from like a design point of view. I don't know if the gameplay pattern you have to go through to beat them is as enjoyable as it is when you're dismantling like the support units, right? Because like that at that point you can feel like, oh, I make good choices. I brought the right guys in here. They match up very well against the enemy. I'm strategically moving my guys around. Then you hit a boss, and then just like, all right, I can one shot or two shot you. So the real game is like just doing revival beads in a row and trying to get off your finishers because you don't do any damage to them. I think that like that play pattern is actually not as fun. Yeah, and it's a function. I've actually
had to commit to a tank. Like
or using knights, or like other units, like all that. By the way, I think that's good. It's good that you can see a big impact of like taking like a couple of terror knights with the guardian and like the wall stuff, so people can't just rush you and like all that stuff. I think it's cool. I'm just saying that like there are times when I think that tweak to the game design falls apart like at key points, because I remember there's a fight with like Vice very early on where you look at like people's reactions on the internet to get through it, and they're doing like you have to do all this like cheesy shit if you like chose the wrong class for your guy, because you like kiting him or do other things like that. I'm like, that I don't think is the experience.
I know the battle you're talking about. Yeah, eventually like I was like running, heal, hit him, run, heal,
right?
Like, and if there wasn't that story scene, I would have lost it.
Yeah, so stuff like that, I didn't take away from my enjoyment of the game, but my guess is that that's not an intended play experience.
Because you could have been over leveled and fucked them up.
Right, and I think the storyline is you're playing out what's almost a 1v1 with your best friend. So I don't know if like having your characters running around the screen healing and doing other things is like in line with even the story that they're telling. So it's like times like that where like the game systems take away from the immersion of what that is supposed to be. But it's also like a 30-plus-year-old game, and they're not going to do too much to really like change up the balance or anything else like that. And it's not really rock, paper, scissors. So all in all, like I think it's perfectly fine. So I would definitely recommend Tactics Ogre Reborn. And I recently just started playing Octopath Traveler for the first time, and I'm enjoying it.
Oh, really?
Not a recommend yet, but I like what I'm playing.
I got to the final chapter. I beat 2 of the storylines, and I got to the final chapter. Something else. I have to actually pick it back up. I think I'm going to pick it back up on PC, but I'm excited for the second one. But yeah, I think you would enjoy it. Honestly, the pixel art is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's cool.
The music
really cool.
is phenomenal. Like it's really good, and I think they used a lot of stuff that they learned there as part of like Triangle Strategy. Even though they're not like that's RPG and that's like SRPG or whatever, but I think they like use the knowledge of some of that stuff in that, and I'm excited for Octopath Traveler 2. And I also hear that the end game final boss for Octopath Traveler is like hard, like people struggle, like everybody.
Good, no, difficult. I like a highly difficult challenge, so I'm enjoying that now. So I'm not like, I mean, you could kind of take it as a recommendation, but like. Given that I have not finished it, I'd like to like get to the end of a couple of stories and be able to speak more clearly about it. But definitely Tactics Ogre Reborn. And then a homie hit me up and was like, "Oh, I just got a Switch. What game should I get?" And I gave him a list, and he's like, "Okay, I went and got Monster Hunter." I was like, "Fuck, I gotta get back into Monster Hunter." So it's on my list.
Title 3 update stuff like that.
I need it.
They just need to announce the next one. Just put it on PC and PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. Just start there. Like, just make it easy on us. That way, more people will play initially, not just on the Switch.
Right, I agree.
And
I want to get it on PC. Let me rephrase that. I really want to play on PC, and if I go PC, I'm not going to use the same weapons that I was using on Switch.
That's what I did. I did Charge Blade on Switch, and then I did Sword and Shield only on PC. That was like great. It was great.
I'm ready for it. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, that's it. So if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube down below, and if you want to follow us on other platforms, anime_savants on Twitter, and then anime regular savants on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I mean, other platforms that might exist if Twitter goes down in flames, but we're still here, so we'll see.
You can hit me up on Twitter at Neural Handshake. I know that it is still a literal hellscape, and it's only getting worse every day, but we still out here. We still doing big things. Make sure to follow the Anime Savants accounts wherever you got them. Leave us reviews, please. Reviews, comments, does a lot for us. Also helps us when we go out and get our wonderful people to come in and do interviews and other things. Support them. Support everything we do. And that's it. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.